Homeless dog rescues dying woman from car crash. He drags her more than 100 feet to get help. Do you believe in miracles? Well, whatever your answer is, you're going to believe in miracles after watching this video. The story is of a car crash that occurs due to speeding, and the woman in the car assumed the worst, but then a dog appeared as a miracle. Shannon Lorio lived most of her life in the peaceful town known as Pavo in the state of Georgia. She shared a home with her husband, and much like everyone else in the neighborhood, they simply kept to themselves. She went through a devastating experience that altered her life on the 26th of January. Well, it's pretty common in relationships for couples to argue at times, and they also got into a heated argument. This fight quickly escalated into something too much for her to bear. As soon as it went down, Shannon wanted space more than anything else, and a nighttime drive sounded like a great way to cool off. So she left the house and headed toward the car. Despite knowing the rules and driving for years, safety was the last thing on her mind as she jumped in the car and sped off. She accelerated because she was angry, and this seemed like the perfect outlet. While she increased the speed of her car, her heart pounded against her chest. If you visit Georgia, you can see its woodsy nature in some of its areas, as there are plenty of full-grown trees in the state. And while this is simply something to appreciate and encourage all around the world, sometimes this can be really intimidating for drivers. As well as this state is well known for its windy roads, which are long and curvy. With so many trees, people should be careful while driving on the roads, specifically when you're driving down the notorious NASCAR road. Even though she had heard of all the warnings surrounding that road, Shannon went down that road anyway. While safety was not her priority at the time, her emotions from the argument still kept her high-strung. After navigating the windy path to the best of her abilities, she was able to turn around the car without too much difficulty when she approached a deep curve. Soon after that, she had to make another big turn, and she instantly knew that this was not similar to the first one. My world turned upside down within seconds of entering the second curve, Shannon recalled. In the crash, her head struck the back glass of the car, and she lost consciousness after she was thrown out of the driver's seat. And when the poor woman woke up again, her head would not stop spinning. She was not able to understand the situation she was in because every single thing around her was entirely hazy. Unfortunately, she was completely trapped because her legs were in the back seat and her torso was in an uncomfortable position. I wouldn't be seen by anyone coming in the direction of my vehicle because of the way it smashed into the tree, said Shannon. In fact, her car had swerved so deeply into the woods that the only way someone would have noticed the accident was by someone walking by. In the area, cars would have sped by too quickly to detect anything out of the ordinary. She started to panic after realizing that no one was coming to rescue her. While thinking about her husband and their fight, Shannon also regretted the drive that led her to the situation. Her body was weak, and she used the remaining strength she had left to cry. As she was already very weak, she started crying with the strength left in her body. Just as Shannon had begun to give up, a wandering dog approached her car out of the blue. Yes, this is how a dying woman was rescued from a car crash by a homeless dog. She really believed that she was stuck there badly, and no one could find her until it was too late. When reflecting on her car crash, she said she doesn't know what the dog was doing. Was he heading back to his owner or what? However, I thank God that he came across me. Goodness gracious, the amazing dog dragged her more than 100 feet in order to get help. And because of this gentle act of a precious creature, the woman's life was saved. Eventually, they reached the area just beside the road after the dog pulled her from the trees and across the grass. There were significant chances for Shannon to find help, as in that area, the drivers have more chances to notice her. However, Shannon still felt that she needed to do more than lie on the ground and wait for a car to arrive. She was inspired by the determination of the furry animal, so she tried to push herself off the ground. And she was clearly struggling when she tried to push herself for the first time. However, the dog still does not give up on her, and for that, he moved closer to her. He leaned down a little bit to provide his neck to her. Then she wrapped her arms around the dog's neck and pulled to the best of her ability. and eventually she stood up for the first time after her accident. Shannon could feel the wind because it was a frosty night, and she was not wearing many clothes. In spite of that, she was warmed just by the thought that this dog had gone out of its way for her sake. After that, both of them started waiting for someone to come by. Finally, a vehicle arrived when she held on to the stable canine. It was so dark that she was not able to understand what type of vehicle it was. Anyway, Shannon was ecstatic when the vehicle slowed down and came closer to where they were. After gathering all the strength she had, she leaned into the window and asked the passengers for help. With tears in her eyes, she said, "I just crashed my car, and will you please call my husband?" Her condition was fragile at that time because she fell again due to the unconsciousness. And in the meantime, the passengers inside the vehicle instantly started making calls to seek help. Well, the next time she opened her eyes, she was in the hospital lying down on a bed. When she woke up, the doctors immediately came to her side to ask what had happened to her. Even though her vision was still hazy because of sleep, she could see the expression on the doctor's face. Then the doctor said to her cautiously, "Shannon, you have got a small bleed in the brain." After the stressful news, doctors and nurses had to determine whether she needed surgery. That's because brain hemorrhages are really serious, so they were taking time to decide what is good for her. While waiting, Shannon lay awake in bed, even though she was trying to rest, but her mind wandered back to all the things that happened to her, from the fight to the crash and the unbelievable rescue from the dog. Everything that happened to her in the last 24 hours was no less than a dream. After a few hours, the doctor returned to her room, and thankfully, the doctors confirmed that the bleeding was not major. And with rest, her body can heal itself. This means that she did not require any complex surgery and was free to go home. She could heal from all that in the comfort of her home and with the support of her husband. The dog did everything to help her, and this wonderful animal was surely a lifesaver. Shannon also said that if he hadn't come to her rescue, I would not be here today. She could not praise the dog enough. Initially, she assumed the dog had an owner, but in reality, he was a stray. However, after his heroic act and kindness, people could not ignore this tremendous dog anymore. When Shannon was in her recovery stage, the dog was taken in by the Humane Society. He attracted a lot of attention and was lucky enough to be adopted. After that, he has been given a name that everyone surely considers the perfect name for his character. The dog is named Hero, and he was adopted by Heidi Draughty. Draughty is a canine search and rescue trainer and could not be a better owner for this wonderful dog. Also, she instantly began training Hero to make him a certified mission-ready search dog. She also commented on the dog's training, that they're training him for the wilderness at the moment, and he's doing great. It's nice to think that Hero is able to put himself out there and help people in need with his extraordinary abilities. During an interview, Shannon shared her story and said all of us can see how pure his heart was, even with no training. She cried tears of happiness as she showed her appreciation at the end of her interview for the dog who is her hero, a truly amazing creature. Well, if you like this story, be sure to give it a huge thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.